Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, Sretan Petak. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and this is 5 Question Friday. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, we answer 5 questions about Croatia from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, email, our consulting sessions, and people who spell them out in Scrabble letters. Hello! Greetings from suburban Texas. I am in my hometown, actually. This is I'm in Irving, which is a suburb of Dallas. This is where I was born and raised. I was born in a hospital that it was like 400 meters from where I am sitting. And I'm sitting in something called the Hospital District Green Space, which I guess is what you call something when it's not big enough to be a park. So it's just this little field of grass with some trees that's just nestled in between houses. So, I am in Texas just because I want to see people that I love, which is a nice change of pace for coming home for crises, which is what the last 5 years have been. And that's just kind of what it's like when you live abroad and your family just starts to get older. So it's been a really lovely time the last couple of weeks getting to see family and friends. And I'm, jazzed about it. Hey, Jeff, also from Dallas. Francisco, are you in Dallas too? Cool. Oh, by the way, how do you like my new cowboy hat? I went over to Cavender's Boot City and got it. I dig it quite a lot. Okay, so what else did I have to tell you? I think that's it, actually. Croatia feels a million miles away. I really feel like whenever I come to Texas, Croatia does not exist. It's just in another universe, plane of existence, dimension. It's just like Croatia and Texas cannot possibly exist at the same time. And then when I'm in Croatia, it's like Texas, again, different dimension, cannot possibly exist in the same universe. So I feel just so far away, but I'm really glad to do 5 Question Friday today because this is keeping me connected to Croatia. I was bummed I got to miss out on seeing you a couple weeks ago, but I'm here now, so yay. We're going to go ahead and get into the questions now, all right? So this first one comes from Chris here on Instagram. In the United States, I have insurance on my home for fire, etc. Do they have similar in Croatia? Do people insure their homes? Yes, people absolutely insure their homes. I mean, if you get a home loan in Croatia, you were required to insure your home, which is the situation with my homes. I got a home loan to purchase my apartment, so I was required to get an insurance policy on my home. And I think I pay about 150 euros a year for my home insurance, which is not very much. I can't speak to what it costs in the United States, but it's pretty affordable. Now, of course, every policy is different. You need to understand what you're at risk for in the area that you're in. So I'm in an apartment in Split. Not really at risk for fire because everything's concrete, or flood because I'm up on a hill. But if you have a home that is in a floodplain or is in an area that would be subject to wildfires, then you may want to consider getting a policy that includes those things. Now, there are people who don't insure their home if they don't have a home loan on their house and they've paid for it outright, then they're not required to get home insurance. But you absolutely can. There are lots of reputable insurance companies that you can choose from. Some banks also offer insurance policies. So there are 3 really big reputable insurance companies in Croatia that we usually recommend: Grawe, Wiener, and Croatia Osiguranje, Crosig. So we have links to them if you would like them. So you can send us a DM on Instagram, or you can drop a link, or if you're on YouTube, they are down below in the description. Okay, so next question comes from Luberry420 here on Instagram. What paperwork do Croatian descendants without citizenship need to live and work in Croatia? So if you are a Croatian descendant and you do not have citizenship, you can get residence in Croatia. So up until March 15th, of this year, you could get residence based on humanitarian reasons. But then when they changed the law on foreigners recently, they made an administrative change in the law. So now you get residence not under humanitarian reasons anymore, but now there's a special category. I feel like the news is like, oh, there's this new category for residents for Croatian descendants. And it's like, this is a residence permit that's already existed. It's just they're recategorizing it. That's really the only thing. It already existed. But they did extend the term to up to 2 years. They always say up to 2 years because that allows them the discretion to not give it to you for 2 years. Okay. So in terms of what you need, of course, you need an application. That's Obrazats 1A, which we have a guide that is on this specific residence permit where you can download that. You can see a list of requirements. You'll need a copy of your passport. Of course, your passport needs to be valid for 3 months beyond the term on which you are applying. You're going to need a certificate that you're a member of the Croatian people. And basically to get that, you have to go to the Office for Croats Abroad, which that office may be changing its name. There's a lot of kind of moving parts that are going on at the ministry that controls that. But for now, Office for Croats Abroad. And you provide them proof that you're a member of the Croatian people. Usually that's through birth certificates, which, you know, you're going to be obtaining if you're going to be applying citizenship anyways. And then they are going to talk to you about it, make sure they have all the right paperwork, and then they're going to issue this certificate. And then that is what you're going to use to apply for residence. You're also going to need a background check that has to be legalized or apostilled and then translated depending on, legalized or apostilled depending on the country from which you are getting your background check. That needs to be from your country of citizenship. Or if you have not, I'm getting ahead of myself. A lot of practice when I haven't done this in 2 weeks. Your background check needs to be from the country where you have lived for the last 12 months. If you have not lived in a single location for the last 12 months, it should be from your country of nationality. Then you put a legalization or apostille on it depending on the country and their rules, and then you have it officially translated in Croatia. And that is it. You don't have to show proof of insurance. You don't have to show proof of financial means. So it is a much easier path to residence than any of the other ones. And also something that's super neat about it is that you can freely work like a Croatian citizen. You can get free, the same kind of access to education as Croatian citizens. Basically, you have a lot of the same rights as Croatian citizens without actually being a Croatian citizen. And then once you obtain that residence, then you can apply for citizenship from Croatia. So what do we have for you? We have a guide to this residence program, which also includes information on how you obtain that certificate for being a member of the Croatian people. So contact us. We'll get that over to you. Next question is from Shannon here on Instagram. Does the change to the law on foreigners mean digital nomads can apply for the digital nomad permit 2 times? So first, as I mentioned before, the law on foreigners was recently changed. There's a lot of stuff that was changed within that law. We have some questions today that are about that. So that is what she is referencing today. Now, the digital nomad permit was changed. There are a few things that were changed about it, but you could always apply for it multiple times. You can still apply for it multiple times. It can be more than 2 times that you apply for the digital nomad permit. At this moment, you could apply 5 times for the digital nomad permit. What's important is that you understand you have to wait 6 months in between your applications. So if you are here for 12 months or 18 months, because now it has been extended up to 18 months, then you have to wait 6 months before you apply again. Okay? What else? Okay, so we have 2 things we can send you. One is we have a ginormous post that summarizes all the changes to the law on foreigners. So we have that for you. And also our guide on how to apply for the digital nomad permit, which also includes all the benefits because there's a tax exemption in there. the fact that you can now apply for either 12 or 18 months. So all of those new things are in there. Plus there's an FAQ. So if you want that, contact us or just go to expatinCroatia.com. You can find it there. Our next question comes from Sophia on IG as well. Temporary residence based on real estate ownership being extended from 1 to 3 years. Is this applied to only new permits or existing ones can get an extension? So correction, no, it has not been extended to 3 years. I don't know where that information came from, but that is incorrect. Okay. So first, let's kind of put that out there. All right. Now, what they have done for residents based on real estate ownership is they are saying if you were a retiree over 60, then you can apply for this permit over and over again, back to back, without waiting 6 months in between. So I want to unpack this a little bit just to make sure everybody understands. So in the law and foreigners, there is a category of permit called other purposes. So other purposes is when you want to apply for residence based on something that is not already defined in the law. It's kind of like a catch-all bucket for a variety of different purposes: real estate ownership, language study, prepayment of rent. This is all other purposes. So they're all regulated together and have the exact same rules. They have all have the same requirements. The only difference is your purpose. So for real estate ownership, you have to show that you own a residential property that you own. For prepayment of rent, you have to show that you have prepaid rent for a year. For language study, you have to show that you are enrolled in an accredited program. Okay? Now, on this bucket, one of the rules is that you cannot apply for it back to back. Okay? You have to wait 6 months in between applications, just like digital nomad. It is the same. All right? However, now they have created an exemption for retirees over 60. So that way they don't have to wait 6 months in between. They can have a year on residence based on other purposes, based on property ownership, and then they can apply again and again and again. So, one of the kind of complaints, concerns, whatever, that we have gotten from retirees over the years, like they want to live here long term and not have to leave for 90-day periods and then apply again. Well, now they have built something into the law for you. So this is kind of a big major deal, quite frankly, because there are very few permits that don't require you to leave for at least 90 days and wait 6 months in between those permits if you are someone who is not married to an EU citizen, not married to a Croatian. So it's a big deal. We do have a guide on this particular residence permit. So if you would like that, you know where to find us. Okay. Oh, also, I have 2 other guides for you. We have a guide on how to retire in Croatia. So that gives you your residence options, but it also goes over other things that retirees might want to know. Healthcare, like public transportation, because maybe you don't want to buy a car, a variety of other things that you would need. And then also how to buy property in Croatia as a third country national. And since we're talking about buying property, we also have a guide on how to buy property as a Croatian or EU national, because the rules are different for them. They're easier. Spoiler alert. Okay, is this our last question today? Yes, this is our last question today. So this one comes from John on the 5-Question Friday forum. This sentence from your website is hard to interpret because there are multiple dates involved. Quote, when submitting a specific application in Croatia, enclose apostilled legalized documents must not be older than 6 months from the date of issue of the document, not the date of apostille legalization. End quote. There is the date of the original document, marriage certificate or a legal contract. There is the date of the printing of an official copy of the document. There is the date that an apostille is created for that document. There is 6 months from the date of the document. There is the date of the enclosed legalized documents. Which date is it? It's the date of the printing. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Last week, I went and got a new copy of my birth certificate because Croatia. So when I went and got my new copy of my birth certificate, obviously I was born in 1983, but that is not the date that they're talking about. They are talking about the date of issue. So it would be last week, last Tuesday or whatever, 6 months from that date. Okay, so they put a stamp at the bottom that says this copy of this birth certificate was printed on this day. That is the date of issue. So when we're talking about 6 months from the date of issue, it's that date. It's the date that they issued that physical copy of the document. So Croatia implements this arbitrary expiration date on foreign government. Well, no, not just foreign, but Croatia documents as well. Okay, so like when you're applying for citizenship, all your government documents need to be less than 6 months old. Yes, there are some consulates that make certain exceptions. That is their prerogative. But generally speaking, 6 months from the date of issue. And when you're applying for residence and you need a background check, it needs to be 6 months from the date of issue of the document, not the apostille. Okay, you get the document, you put the apostille on it or the legalization on it, but the date applies to the original document. Okay? So I can understand why that would be confusing because, oh, Jeff, I'm a baby. You know what? I am younger than some and older than others. All right, we have 2 guides for you on this one. How to prepare your foreign documents for Croatia and the difference between an apostille and full legalization of government documents, because some countries are in the apostille convention, which means you have a 1-step process, and then some countries are not, which means you have to do full legalization, which is a minimum 2-step process. Sometimes it can be your 3 or 4, depending on your distance from a Croatian consulate or embassy. Okay, I feel like we had some comments, so let me just see if we have any questions. David and Elizabeth, first time watching live while I'm in Croatia after watching your videos for a couple of years. We finally moved here. Yay! Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Welcome, welcome. I know I'm not there, but Croatia's in my heart. So, welcome to Croatia. I'm so glad that you moved. Did I miss anything else? I don't think so. How can I bring my wife here in Croatia? Hi, Thomas. It depends. It depends on what your basis is for residence. We do have a guide on family reunification. That is what you need to go after. So you can DM us or go to expatinCroatia.com, type in family reunification, and we have a guide on how she can apply, how she can come. But again, it all depends on your basis for residence in terms of what the rules are, because not all residence permits allow for family reunification. And one other kind of standalone is like if you're on a standard work permit, that means like not a blue card, but like just a standard issue work and residence permit, then you can't bring your family for until the 2nd year that you're here. So there's a lot of different nuance and variables. So check out that guide, send us a message, help us out. Help us out with some more information about your situation. We can help you out. Okay. All right. So I think that's it, guys. I think we're done for today. So thank you so much for being here. I will be in Texas next week as well. I will be in my college town for next week's 5-Question Friday. So that'll be pretty cool. Oh, we've got something. Sue Croat. We have a buyer to buy a small home in Croatia before paperwork is finalized. The buyer wants to move in to do work. Is this a bad idea? Possibly. I would speak to a lawyer. So if you are selling a property, then I'm guessing you have a lawyer. You should have a lawyer who's representing you in that process. So I would consult with your lawyer about that, because if they're going to take possession before the paperwork is finalized, there needs to be some kind of, usually a paper trail to protect you in that kind of situation. All right. So I would definitely speak to a lawyer. Francisco asks, we have our appointment to submit the citizenship application in LA. How long does it take to complete the process? So the average processing time is 1 to 2 years. However, something to understand about the consulates is when you submit your application, the consulate doesn't just turn around and like send your application to the Ministry of the Interior in Zagreb immediately. Like usually there's a delay because they batch the applications together and send them in like, you know, one packet. LA takes the longest. So it could be 3 to 6 months before they actually send it to Zagreb for processing. So I'm going to take this opportunity to explain the difference between the consulates and the Ministry of Interior. So the consulates and the embassies are under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Their only job is to take your application. They do not process them. That's it. They only take it from you, and then they forward it to the Ministry of the Interior. The Ministry of the Interior is who actually processes, evaluates, and approves your application. Okay? So that's how long it will take. But good luck with your appointment. I hope it goes well. If you have any questions, let us know. We're rooting for you. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and go about my Friday here in Texas. And I wish you a wonderful weekend. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Oh, hi, Anna. And hi, Tamara. I saw you join. And Michael, I saw you. Hi. Okay, have a wonderful weekend. Ciao. Vidimo se. Bok. Howdy. Bye.